Good evening. Thanks and welcome to everyone who's joining us today for this conference. So here it's eSpace, the entrepreneurship space at the University of Geneva in the framework of the Global Entrepreneurship Week 2020. This third day has hosted some conferences, our daily lunch break show, and we are here tonight to celebrate our last session of the whole event, a conference that is going to be focusing on how to become the change maker of tomorrow. For this occasion, we have the pleasure to welcome our three exciting panelists. So first, Ingeborg Albert, who is Innovation Manager at Geneus, Didier Fischer, who is the President of the Sportive Group of Servette, and Rainer Gude, who is the Co-President of Initiative of Change in Switzerland. Good evening to the three of you. Before we start and we give you the word for 10 minutes to each other, I just like you to present yourself a bit more in detail than I did. We can start with you, Ingeborg.
Yeah, with pleasure. Thank you. So I work at Genius, and Genius is actually an initiative, a partnership between the EPFL Innovation Park, Fongit, and Eclosion. And these are incubators, so they help startups to develop and to scale. And 4 years ago, they realized, okay, there is not enough support between researchers who have an idea and the ability for them to then go to an incubator. Because when you receive support by an incubator, you probably need to have a prototype ready or a business model that already is proven. And when you just start with an idea, you need that support to really get to that point. And that's when they created Genius, and it was this focusing on life sciences, although we also support high-tech entrepreneurs and SDG-related projects.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Didier?
Thank you for the invitation, and I just can give some things about my life. I have always been an entrepreneur. I think I have never worked for anybody else than for myself, and but I am an agronomic engineer, and I have been working always in the food business, mostly, and then today, as we just talked about before, I said I'm retired. It means I have some pleasure activity. I try to live through passion, which is wine and sport. So today I have the heart of the sport group, and I am driving that with a lot of pleasure. I'm chairman of the foundation which owns Servette Ice Hockey Club, Servette Football Club, and Servette Rugby Club.
And I hope that sports goes before wine, otherwise it's a bit difficult.
Depends on the period.
And you, Rainer, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for the invitation. Great to be here. So I was saying before, my mother is German, my father is Spanish. I was born and raised in New York, and it's been 12 years that I've been here in Geneva. So it's a nice mix, and I work for Initiatives of Change, which is a global network of about 50 or so national bodies that try to inspire, equip, and connect people, change makers, to be the change that they want to see in the world. So whether that's business people, whether that's people working for peace, that's people working in the humanitarian sector, we try to create a community, offer tools and accompaniment for these people to be that change. And I guess that's how I snuck onto this panel, but glad to be here and excited to learn from the others as well.
Thank you very much. So just to remind you, the topic of this conference is how to become the change maker of tomorrow. Now we're gonna let the three speakers 10 minutes to talk about their vision, their perspective on the topic, more or less 10 minutes. If it's less, it's okay. If it's more, that's okay as well. We're going to do it mainly in English. Maybe we're going to shift it in French sometimes. So no worries if this happens. That's completely normal. Maybe we can start again with you.
A pleasure. Yeah, so it was interesting when you asked me, what shall be our talking points. Because initially I was thinking, yes, what should I talk about? And then I realized, oh no, there's so much I want to talk about. So that's why I made my little notes, to try to focus. I think the most important message, I have 3 key messages that I really want to share with you. Because I know also our audience are potential entrepreneurs, they're students, young people. And I want to maybe demystify the process of innovation and entrepreneurship. So innovation, let's start with the definition, how we see innovation. It's in our view, the ability to transform an idea into something that has social and economic impact. So that can be, for example, a startup. And how do you get from this untangible idea to something that actually works in the market? It seems like such a big gap that you need to jump over. And I thought of starting with the core of my activities and my knowledge, my background, which is actually the process of innovation, to help you maybe demystify it a bit. So when you have an idea, and to make it very simple, there are maybe 3 main risks. You have an idea and it may not work in the market. Maybe people don't like the product that you're building. Maybe there was no need. Maybe there is a need, but maybe the market is not strong enough. Maybe there's a need, your product or service fulfills a need, but people don't understand how it fulfills a need. My professor will be very happy that I said that, because it's is one of his slogans. But anyway, so that's the market risk. And the second risk that you have is the technical risk. It may not work, what you're trying to build. And the third thing, to make it very simple, is the risk in the execution. In the transformation of, you have your idea, then you need to develop your product, you need to develop your team, you need to develop your funding, your intellectual property. There's a lot of things you need to develop. And that's the execution risk. So what we are doing when people come with our idea, with their ideas, obviously the first thing an entrepreneur needs to have when there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of risk is courage. So we like to just, in the first instance, give them courage by believing in what they may want to achieve. And I think that's the first step. And then you start with the idea, and out of the 3 risks, what is the most important risk you need to de-risk? Is it the market? Is it the technical? Or is it the execution? And when you see at startup failure rates and the reasons why startups fail, it's very often because there's the market that didn't adopt the product in the way that they wanted. And it can also include the market wasn't big enough, they didn't want to pay as much as they thought the market was going to pay. And funnily enough, and I worked across so many sectors. I worked in sport, fast-moving consumer goods, now in life sciences, ICT, and I see it over again. You can de-risk such a large percentage of the market risk with a step-by-step process, and you don't need to already have prototypes or invest in, building your concept. You can actually just share your idea. Like, I have an idea, what do you think? And you ask, 10, 15, 20 people. And then it's your ability to be able to process the feedback that you receive. And that's kind of a cultural thing that that's something that some people have very, very strong. They know exactly what to do with it very quickly. And other people can develop this ability. But that's the first step. Your first little prototype is a presentation. And one of the jobs that we do when people come with their idea is really to allow them to express their idea in the purest way so that they can get the most efficient feedback. And that will already improve their idea at the beginning. And then we gradually start adding more information on all the other aspects. And that's how you systematically de-risk, and that's the process. Now, one thing is the process. And then the other thing around is you need, for example, especially if you develop a medical device or a new medication, you need experts around you because, I'm an engineer. I'm not even a life sciences specialist. So, you need to know about regulatory, you need about intellectual property. So what you also need is a network around you and, a network of experts. So that's what incubators and other supporting organizations help you to surround you with innovation parks. They usually have these experts there. And the other thing that a startup or an idea needs in order to de-risk and to grow is access to a network that includes potential customers, potential partners, suppliers, so just a big network. And again, as an entrepreneur, you don't need to have that all by yourself. It will not be possible to do everything yourself. So you just use organizations whose specialization, like for example your organizations, part of your activities is to have that community, to have that network. And that's also what we do. It's important to keep people engaged so that the entrepreneur can, get their feedback, plug in suppliers or partners or whatever they need along the way. So I think that's kind of the job, what we do. So that's the process of innovation. The beginning is very iterative. It's the build, measure, learn. You need to try, and then you fail, and then you need to, get up again, etc. And then when your startup grows, and since you work with a lot of established large companies, you know that innovation is nice, but it's very disruptive. And, if you have a business, you need to execute. I worked for large companies, and they were very annoyed when we came with new ideas. So when a startup grows and comes into that stage where it needs to scale, you need to execute more linearly. And that's a different métier. That's a different, other things come kind of that into the play. So the difference between an innovation initiator and an incubator is that incubators help startups, shape up a bit more their business model and then, go and scale. And that's what Fonzie does so well. So that's for the innovation process. I wanted to say all this because I think it's important that young people consider entrepreneurship as a career path. It's not just for the creative. It's not just for the bold. There's a culture of innovation that a lot of these skills you can acquire along the way. The more you do it, and we have here a serial entrepreneur besides us, the more you do it, the better you get at the process. So consider innovation as a career path and get familiar a little bit with the tools in the process, but then let yourself be supported by the experts in innovation, because you don't need to become innovation manager. It's not necessary. And then the third thing that I wanted to mention is that Switzerland is obviously, you will know, number one in innovation for the 10th consecutive year. It's a wonderful place to be as an innovation manager, I have to say, especially in tech. But there is an incredible network of support that works so well. You have here not just Fonziet, but you have InnoSuisse, you have Venture Lab, Mass Challenge. You have fantastic players who all work together, and making sure that the entrepreneur gets the right support. You just need to reach out to them. And a lot of them are sponsored by the government, by the state of Geneva, and for a good reason, because you transform, research into economic and social impact. Companies that are going to create jobs. So that's, I don't know how many minutes I took, but these are my 3 points that I wanted to bring across.
And you've been talking about innovation, which is very related with being a change maker.
Yeah.
If you had to give a definition of what a change maker is, what would it be?
That's a good question, because, change. Well, first up, I think people should always try to change for the good. So I think if at least people would have their, making good new things happen is the slogan of my colleague James. But I think then the next thing is depends on what the person wants. You can make a big impact, a big change, or you can make a small change. Same with entrepreneurship. There are lots of entrepreneurs who have I have a good friend of mine in Amsterdam. She has a small business. It's sustainable. It is possibly very scalable, but she doesn't want to make it bigger. She's fine, and she has an impact, a positive impact around her, and I think that's already a good change. Obviously, you can scale it up to however big you want to make it.
Thank you. So, what about you, Didier? What would you like to say?
Je vais parler en français, et puis Tout le monde comprendra.
Faisons-le comme ça.
J'ai beaucoup apprécié ce que vous avez dit parce que il y a des choses qui sont très métriques, je dirais. Il y a des choses à faire, il y a des choses à partager, il y a des choses à construire. Si je veux faire partager mon expérience à des futurs entrepreneurs, hommes et femmes, je vais dire qu'il y a quelques points essentiels qui, à mon avis, font qu'on a une fibre pour devenir entrepreneur. Je pense que tout le monde peut l'avoir. Je pense que ce n'est pas un gène qu'on a ou pas. Je pense que c'est plutôt un état d'esprit dans lequel on est d'accord de se mettre. Et je vais répondre tout de suite à la question ce que c'est un change maker. C'est un entrepreneur. Et réciproquement, un entrepreneur est un change maker. Tout ce qui fait l'économie disruptive, tout ce qui travaille sur l'innovation, qui se sert de laboratoire d'idées, à la fin, c'est l'entrepreneur qui l'amène sur le marché. C'est l'entreprise. Donc, des belles idées, il y en a dans tous les tiroirs du monde. Des idées qui se réalisent et qui apportent une modification dans le mode de vie, dans le mode de transport, dans le mode de pensée. C'est l'entrepreneur, c'est l'entreprise. Donc, un change maker, c'est un entrepreneur et réciproquement. Alors oui, l'entrepreneur qui décide de reprendre l'atelier de restauration des vieilles montres et des vieux meubles, on va dire, il n'est pas dans l'innovation. C'est pas vrai. Il va devoir développer une forme d'innovation aussi. L'innovation et le change maker et l'entrepreneur, ce n'est pas des notions qui sont opposées. C'est des notions qui vont forcément ensemble. Pour avoir cette joie et ce plaisir d'être un entrepreneur, on va tout de suite se rendre compte qu'il faut analyser, à mon avis, il faut analyser 3 points essentiels. Il faut les sonder en soi, dans la personne elle-même. Je pense qu'on ne fait rien s'il n'y a pas de la passion. On ne fait rien de bien. Il faut de la passion, il faut de l'envie, il faut que ça se transforme par un plaisir de faire. Ça, c'est un état intérieur pour un individu et pour un jeune, pour les jeunes étudiants qui nous écoutent. Il faut vraiment avoir le temps d'aller chercher en soi pour dire ça, c'est des domaines qui me passionnent, ça, c'est des domaines, ça ne m'a jamais passionné, je ne vois pas comment ça me passionnerait. Et il ne faut pas se forcer par une autre analyse à aller sur un chemin de l'entrepreneuriat. Dire là, on peut gagner beaucoup d'argent, alors je vais aller là. Si on n'a pas la passion pour ça, ce n'est pas une question du beaucoup d'argent qui va faire qu'on réussit. C'est la passion parce qu'on va devoir mettre une telle somme d'énergie pour construire ces entreprises, pour les mener, que si la passion n'est pas suffisamment intense, on n'aura pas la somme d'énergie nécessaire pour le faire. Donc la première chose, c'est la passion, l'envie et le plaisir qui vont avec. Dans la deuxième chose, un entrepreneur, il va faire fonctionner un système qui s'appelle une entreprise, quelle qu'elle soit. Ça peut être un institut, ça peut être une fondation, ça peut être une société anonyme, ça peut être n'importe quoi. Il doit répondre à une question très rapidement, c'est quelle est la valeur ajoutée que mon entreprise va apporter au marché. Au marché, le marché c'est quoi? C'est pas qu'un tiroir caisse comme ça. Le marché, c'est la communauté des gens auxquels je vais m'adresser. Et on doit toujours partir du principe, alors c'est un peu contradictoire avec ce que vous avez dit avant, vous avez des incubateurs d'idées, j'ai une idée, je viens, je la partage. Pour l'entrepreneur, c'est j'ai observé le marché, là il y a quelque chose à faire, donc j'ai pris l'idée du marché. Je n'ai pas apporté mon idée. J'ai vu que là il y a quelque chose à faire. Là je peux apporter une valeur ajoutée. Dans n'importe quel domaine, c'est vrai. Mais si on n'identifie pas la valeur ajoutée dans le marché, l'entreprise elle n'a pas de raison d'être. C'est une jolie occupation, mais elle ne va pas vivre. Il manque un facteur essentiel pour sa durabilité, c'est que j'apporte une valeur ajoutée et je crée, j'ai une activité ou un service qui offre à mon public, au marché, à la communauté, quelque chose de plus. Ça, il faut identifier vraiment. Troisième point essentiel pour moi, c'est la différenciation. Il faut être différent. Quand vous montez une entreprise, vous pouvez être différent sur beaucoup de points. Alors il faut être différent dans sa structure, dans son type de management, dans le type de produit qu'on va amener et dans la façon d'amener ces produits sur le marché, produits ou services. Donc, quels sont les facteurs de différenciation à chaque moment de la création de mon entreprise, à chaque moment de la construction de mon entreprise, qu'est-ce qui est différent? Pourquoi est-ce que j'ai une chance de faire que cette entreprise va devenir quelque chose de durable? Un des facteurs, c'est la différenciation. Et ça, c'est une question qu'il faut absolument se poser. À cause de mon âge, je reçois pas seulement de jeunes qui viennent pour me dire, voilà, on a monté ça, voilà où on en est, ça fait 3 ans qu'on a fait ça, et puis on a fini la période start-uping, on aimerait faire du scale-up, et qu'est-ce qui nous manque, qu'est-ce qu'il y a, pourquoi, est-ce qu'on n'arrive pas, et on cherche des investisseurs, est-ce que vous seriez d'accord de... Stop. Les questions, c'est pas l'argent. Les questions, c'est pas la plateforme de compétences et les experts que vous allez prendre avec vous. Tout ça, c'est du métrique, c'est facile. Ça, c'est une personne qui m'intéresse, il va falloir que je lui parle. Je vais la prendre dans mon conseil d'administration, dans mon conseil d'experts, dans mon conseil de fondation. On va aller réunir des compétences pour... C'est pas ça qui est compliqué. Est-ce que tu t'es posé la question de savoir si tu es vraiment en facteur de différenciation? Est-ce que tu t'es posé la question de savoir si tu apportes vraiment quelque chose à ton marché? Il faut toujours revenir à ces questions de base. Et est-ce que tu as toujours la passion et le plaisir de développer cette entreprise? C'est ça les questions auxquelles il faut répondre. Le reste, on trouve une solution. Donc mon message est véritablement de dire que l'entreprise, c'est un monde merveilleux. Très dur, ça prend beaucoup de temps, ça mange la vie sociale, voilà, on peut trouver tous les défauts du monde. Mais c'est une aventure merveilleuse, c'est un mode de vie merveilleux. Parce qu'on a des questions toujours fondamentales à résoudre qui sont la passion, le plaisir, la compréhension du monde qui nous entoure, la valeur ajoutée qu'on apporte et les facteurs de différenciation. J'ai réussi à faire ça comme ça et là j'ai passé. Ils ont tous fait comme ça, ils ne sont pas passés. Et moi j'ai juste fait ça et je suis passé. C'est un plaisir immense. Donc voilà, c'est un monde merveilleux, mais il faut juste savoir que tout ce qui peut apparaître aujourd'hui comme compliqué d'un point de vue administratif, financier, structurel, c'est pas très important. Il faut aller chercher en soi la motivation de le faire.
Finalement, cet aspect de différenciation, est-ce qu'on l'identifie pas aussi à ce que Ingeborg disait par rapport à l'innovation? Est-ce que finalement, se différencier, c'est pas aussi innover du coup? Est-ce qu'il y a une différence ou est-ce que finalement,
certainement.
C'est presque la même chose?
Certainement. C'est véritablement innover. Je prends l'exemple du groupe sportif. Normalement, un club sportif est tenu par une personne qui met de l'argent, qui met son esprit et son âme dedans, et c'est mon club, et je vais faire en sorte que ce club soit champion du monde. Dans l'innovation, c'est peut-être aussi dans la forme de gérer un club. Parce qu'un club de foot, son activité, ça va être de marquer des goals et de gagner, de marquer plus que le voisin, donc de gagner le match. Il n'y a pas d'innovation absolue dans le fait qu'un match de foot est un match de foot. Par contre, moi j'ai pensé qu'il fallait justement faire ce que vous avez dit avant, réunir une plateforme de compétences de gens qui sont beaucoup plus forts que moi dans n'importe quel domaine que je peux envisager, la communication, les ressources humaines, la compétence sportive, la compétence financière, la compétence légale. Ben voilà, moi j'ai réuni ces plateformes de compétences et j'ai fait une fondation. Et cette fondation détient l'ensemble des clubs. La fondation s'appartient à elle-même. Elle appartient à personne. Il n'y a pas d'actionnaires, il n'y a pas de personnes qui vont faire pression. Ça, c'est de l'innovation. La fondation qui détient des clubs sportifs. On décapitalise le marché du sport en faisant détenir à une fondation dont le but est un but idéal, non lucratif. Eh bien, ça, c'est innovant. Ça a choqué beaucoup de gens. Mais ça fait que la confiance est venue, que les partenaires sont venus, que les politiques nous ont fait confiance. Ils ont dit, tiens, on décapitalise, on dématérialise l'action en tant que share pour des opérations sportives. Eh bien, ça nous a permis, par cette différenciation, de créer de l'intérêt, de créer de la confiance et donc d'avancer comme on avance. Voilà.
Merci Didier pour ces
Sorry
quelques
not
mots.
to explain all that in English, but
That's okay. It was still very interesting. So let's go with you, Rainer, now. What is for you to be a change maker?
So first of all, thank you to my two co-panelists who already gave a lot of great examples, a lot of good insight. I'm glad this is recorded, that can be seen again later. I think to be a change maker, you have to constantly, as Ingeborg said, keep asking yourself what kind of change it is you want to make. I think it is an entrepreneur. I think it's someone who puts the rules of the game into question, tries to bring something new. But I would also say, hopefully, for the better. You could say that Stalin and Hitler were change makers, but are they the type of change makers we need today? And perhaps if you wanted to change the world 30 years ago, you might have entered government. If you wanted to change the world 15 years or 10 years ago, people would say, maybe I join an NGO. Now, a lot of people, if they want to change the world, they have social enterprises. They start to become a business. How can I make business for change? And my first message to all of you listening out there is that any positive change out there, solving the problems of climate change, solving a lot of the health issues in this world, dealing with COVID crisis, will never be solved by one sector or one enterprise alone. We need to find ways where business, government, and civil society can work together. And that's where everyone needs to be entrepreneurial. Everything that they said, my colleagues here, could just as well be applied to the work of a non-governmental organization. So I work with Initiatives of Change. We have a conference center in Co, just above Montreux. And we, for the last 75 years, brought change makers together physically to Co. Then came Corona, and no more physical. I mean, it's already great to be in the same room as people. We haven't done that in a while. I've been in front of my computer for months. And now we had to innovate. We had to try to put our conferences online. And so in an NGO, at the UN, and other places, you're also constantly innovating. And the different rules that you gave of understanding the market, of understanding the technical, those all apply also to the NGO world. So I would say to be a change maker is someone who puts themselves into question. And my tips for being a change maker, I would say I have 2 simple ones and 6 questions. Rainer Maria Rilke said that it's sometimes you don't need to find the answers. You need to be able to sit with the questions. And little by little, you might live your way into the answer. And I think a change maker is someone who can sit with that question of what is the market, what should I do, long enough. It's not about finding the answers right away. It's probably much more about asking the right questions. So my 2 simple answers are, you want to be a change maker, then start with yourself and be the change. Simple enough. If you can do that, you'll be a great change maker. The 6 questions I would say that help you do that are also the 6 main questions that you can always ask. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. Now, if you ask yourself, as my colleagues also said, you have to constantly ask yourself. It's never just, I had my business idea and now it works like that. You're constantly asking and putting yourself into question. So I would say these questions can help. And a small little anecdote. I'm not an entrepreneur myself, as in not having my own business, but I worked for my father, who was an entrepreneur. He imported Spanish wine to New York. And one fine day, I was working for him for 2 years. I had to say that I didn't feel like it was my place to take over the business. I'm sorry again if my dad watches this. It's a heartbreaking moment to not be able to pass on the business. And then my other 3 brothers did not take it either. However, I told him I felt I wanted to go into non-governmental organizations. What? Well, I said like non-profit. He looked at me and he said, "Not profit? like a failed business that makes no profit?" My poor father has learned since then that not-for-profit can also be entrepreneurial and can also make change. But that question did stay with me. Oh, how do I work with not-profit? And anyway, to find my way in this way, in this not-for-profit world, I have often asked myself these 6 questions. So, Who? When people ask you, future change maker, future entrepreneur, who you are, a lot of times the answer today is, I am what I do. I'm a lawyer, I'm an innovator. But if you think that is going to be the only way that fulfills who you are, sorry for the surprise, but that won't be enough. You are obviously an entrepreneur, but also there's a slash, there's many other things that we do, members of a family, members of a community, member of a political party. So who you are has to be beyond just the entrepreneur. It may be a big part of who you are, but that cannot be everything. Cannot be just what you do. Another thing that people say when you ask yourself who you are, they'll say, I am what people say about me. And no amount of likes or comments on your Instagram will be able to fulfill those deeper questions of passion that Didier also talked about, that will drive you through the tough times of being the entrepreneur or being the family man or whatever other challenges that you might say. So what people say about you is nice, but it cannot be the main driver. Lastly, people answer the who question with, I am what I have. And maybe you want to be an entrepreneur to have a nice car or a nice house. But if that's your only answer to the who you are, I'm afraid that also there, it won't be enough. I would propose that who you are has to come, as my colleague said, more about passion, more about your values. And as they say, this beautiful saying that they have in Africa, a phrase called Ubuntu, I am because you are. I am the relationship I have with others, in my company, in my family, in my community. So you have to answer the who you want to be. You'll find the right entrepreneurial questions if you can answer the deeper questions as well. What? Well, if you want to know what to work, and I very much loved how Ingeborg said, you need to know the market. Go and ask other people. What a great way to start any sort of work. Listen. Learn from other people. There's probably no better lesson that you can have. And otherwise, I would say fail. Fail often, fail quick, and fail hopefully as small as possible. But if you want to grow as a change maker, it's not about you, it's not about the change that you want to make. You have to be listening to what other people actually need. So always ask yourself, what change is it that I am called to do? Where is the best place to be a change maker? I'm going to tell you there's probably the best place and the hardest place to be a change maker. And that's right here. Within your own life, within your own setting, starting with yourself. Sometimes if you feel you want to change the world outside, but you're not able to ask yourself the deeper questions of what maybe small change I need to make at home, asking forgiveness to my spouse, taking care of my children. Those links, if you can't deal with that, you cannot deal with things outside. So the change starts at home and where you are. When's the best time to be the change maker of tomorrow? You may wait till tomorrow if you want, but probably a lot more useful would be starting today or starting now. And even better, see every moment as an opportunity to start again. I was told once a beautiful image that starting again, learning from mistakes should be like breathing. You just constantly start again. So today, even with a small thing as simple as smiling to the people you meet on the road, can be the best way to prepare yourself to be the change maker for tomorrow. Why? Nietzsche has this famous quote that says, he who has a strong enough why can deal with any how. Back to what Didier said, if you have the passion, then you will find the answers that you're looking for in being that change maker that you want to see. So constantly ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why do I want to have this company or start this enterprise? And keep on, and maybe that why changes over time. And that's where you have to keep on listening. And lastly, how? How do you do all that? Well, I think you've seen a bit in my answers that community is important, starting with yourself is important, and I would say that you constantly need moments to check in with yourself. In such a loud world, it's good to have moments of silence to actually feel, what do I really think, what do I really feel about these things? When you have to make tough decisions, it's good to listen to others, and it's great to listen to wise people on a panel, but don't forget that illustrious VIP, which is your own inner voice, your own conscience, and you need to get to know it and sit with it. And sometimes a moment of silence, maybe even writing down your thoughts, can be the wisest thing you can do. And lastly, I would say the special sauce that makes all of this work, passion, as Didier said, but really also I would go further and say love, care, the care for the people that you're working with, the care for the issue that you're trying to deal with, putting love into those things, putting care into those things makes all the difference. And then the community helps you find where you can recharge those batteries. A little experience, what if I was a student, well, I was a couple of years ago when I was in your place and I was asking myself, what's the change maker that I want to become later on? I decided to go on a trip, visit my brother in Colombia. He was doing volunteer work. And I was a little hesitant, but it got me out of my comfort zone. And one of the nights we walked through the streets of Medellin to places where I would have never gone in the daylight. But because we were in a group, because we were offering tea and cookies, and because we really came with this atmosphere of service, and one that understood we couldn't change and save the whole situation, I was able to enter into a space that I would have never entered anyway, on my own. And I will never forget, offering tea and looking at a 14-year-old girl who was on the street unfortunately as a prostitute, not used to being looked at in her eyes anymore, and having a moment of human connection, of dignity, of sharing, of giving tea, and allowing myself to be touched by that, knowing I couldn't change it. To be a change maker means that you have to accept there's certain things you cannot change in a certain moment, but allow yourself to be changed and touched by someone else's vulnerability. And that moment allowed me to let go of my fear of, am I in the dangerous place, should I be here or not, but to reach out to someone else. And the smile that I got in return has stayed with me the rest of my life and accompanied me also in other moments when I did have to decide, do I stay in the family business or do I start this whole new life of working in nonprofit and so on? And there I would say that if I were you and I want to know how to be a change maker of tomorrow, find the areas where you can get out of your comfort zone, where you can go into another place, whether it's another country, whether it's another space, and where you can be touched by the vulnerability in your own heart and the vulnerability of others. And that will open your eyes, because if you want to be the change maker, whether it's as an entrepreneur in the business sense or as an entrepreneur in an NGO sense, you have to been able to learn from the world around you. You have to have been able to been touched by the world around you, and you have to have been able to ask yourself these deeper questions. And to ask those deeper questions, you need to fill your life with some more powerful experiences. And I think those are valuable when you can sit down in a moment of silence, and they can become that compass later as well, when you have to make these tough decisions, which market to go to, which expert to ask. And let's be honest, there'll be other difficult moments, as Didier said, but if you have this inner compass with it, if you want to be the change maker, you have to be able to do the inner work. And that's what I would invite you to practice already today. And good luck with that. It's fun, it's passionate, it's a great voyage, as he said, but that internal voyage of constantly putting yourself into question makes the outer voyage even more possible and even more fruitful. Last phrase I'll leave you with, someone said, if instead of trying to save the world, first try to savor the world. Learn from it, enjoy the world around you. There's so much to learn from others, and then you will have been enriched enough to hopefully make some valuable bit of change as you go forward.
Thank you very much, Rainer, for those minutes of interesting points. It seems that you've already asked yourself many times all of those questions, and that you know very well your values. Talking about values, how can we concretely get to know ourselves better and get to know exactly what kind of impact do we want to have in this world?
Well, there I would say, whether it's volunteering or whether it's working in another startup or being willing to try different things, I would say, especially for the entrepreneurs and the change makers of tomorrow, you probably will no longer have a world where I studied one profession and I will be that profession and I'll work in one company for my whole... That seems to be less and less of the dynamic, the way the world is going. The world changes so fast. And they talk about us having to upskill constantly now anyway. And I think what doesn't change won't change that fast are my values. Do I care about social justice, friendships, family? And I think to learn that, you need to, it's like you jump into it. You learn how to swim by swimming. So find the spaces, very much as Didier said, what gives you a certain passion? And there you have to learn and not be afraid to fail and not be afraid to, oh, okay, I tried in this field. Well, it's not it. Okay, no big deal. I think Thomas Edison's quote is great. He says, I did not fail. I only learned another 999 things that don't work, and I'm this much closer to finding what will. And I think the same thing goes for one's own sense of purpose or values. All right, I will try if it's in this domain. And there I think volunteering and finding a space in civil society, whether it's on issues that I care about, can be interesting, because that what we need are also new social entrepreneurs that can find ways that both make money and make our society better. It shouldn't be a trade-off. And if we find ways that can solve social ills that help also society produce more wealth, that is probably the only way we're going to fix a lot of these issues. So I would say, especially for people who are looking, well, what are my values? Then ask yourself that question and sit with it for a while, but also go out and practice trying to make the world a bit better around you where you are. But there I would say it's not just about you trying to change the world. There it is about, well, listen, go out and learn about the world around you. Go out and hear about the issues of people that are outside. In English we would say try to walk in someone else's shoes. Try to go learn about someone's social situation which is totally different from yours. And the more you learn that, the more I think you'll discover what values do actually guide you.
You've been talking about failure. We feel it's normal for you to fail, but many people are very afraid of failing when they start a business or when they already are developing it, and they try to avoid that. You, Ingeborg, in your professional life, in the everyday life, do you see some people that are afraid of that? How do you help them to overcome this fear?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I was talking about risks all the time. Huh? So everybody's afraid to fail. I mean, I think that the person who's not admitting it, people don't like to take risks by nature. But the way we deal with it with entrepreneurship and startups, as I said before, the more often you try and something goes wrong, and your ability to learn from it, because one thing is failing and then failing again, but one thing is failing, learning from it, and maybe you fail on something else, but then at least you are adding value to the process. So we have these examples of a startup that existed for a couple of years, and then maybe after 3-4 years ceases to exist, maybe goes bankrupt. Is that a failure? Well, look what happened in these 4 years, I'm not speaking just about the learning process, but possibly there was some, product created, probably there were some people employed who were able to feed their families for a while, and there is indeed that educational process that took place also for the people who worked with you. So is it a failure, or is it just, a chapter that is closed and created value? So I would rather try to see it that way. And then how we deal with it with entrepreneurs, you do need to go a bit smart about it, because, it's not anymore like maybe how entrepreneurship was seen 10, 20 years ago. You need to just, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you just need to quit your job and go for it fully and, go through all the walls. Well, maybe you should try carefully, you reduce it, you work a bit in the evenings, you try carefully, and then gradually you go into this process. And if you decided to jump ship all the way, that's fine, but then you need to be realistic and put yourself measurable goals, and each time after, you say after 3 or 6 months, I'm measuring, hey, is happening what is supposed to happen, and to what extent, and how much effort have I spent on it, how much Is my family still happy with me? Am I running out of savings? What if I stop now? I can still do plan B? So you need to go about it smartly. We call that the maximum affordable loss. And these are just little techniques that you can use.
So it's more of a mindset to develop and just try new things. As you said before, fail fast. It doesn't matter if you fail. Just learn from your mistakes or what didn't work and try to make it better. If I understand it well, you're doing like that.
No, I think that failure or success are dangerous, and we should not be afraid of that, either success or failure, because each of one has a capital of experience. And when we talk about failure, it's only the way to earn experience. Success is as well something where you earn experience. So I think that the world is 1 or 0 today. You are a loser or a winner. That's wrong. Totally wrong. There is no loser. There is no winner. Depends what you are doing with your failure and what you are doing with your success. You become someone if you know how to treat your failure or your success. You are nobody because you fail. You are nobody because you have success. Depends what you are doing with that. And I think nobody should be afraid of trying to jump in something. No necessary to leave everything, family, girlfriend, boyfriend, or kids and job. No need of that. Just try to be yourself. So you need to try to go deep inside of you to know who you are. I think this is a very good first step. Then jump in your activity. If you fail, you fail. You will start again. If you are successful, you are not successful for your life. You are successful on that project right now. And what is the measure of the success? Is this money? Is this pleasure? Is this, I don't know. There's a lot of way to appreciate failure or success. But you will start something new. You will go somewhere else. So please do not believe that there is a 1 or 0 in entrepreneurship, 1 or 0 in changemaker. Be yourself, jump in you, try to know who you are and go ahead, and then you will see what happened. But there's no fear to get about failure, because success, I think, is more
dangerous too.
Dangerous than failure.
I had heard once a beautiful quote that said, there are 2 obstacles to progress. One is failure, but the other is success. And it's the second one that's the worst. Mm-hmm. Because you can get stuck on it, and you can expect that it has to be like that, and it can block innovation. So I think both for the future entrepreneurs, be aware of exactly what you do with either the failure or the success, and not to get stuck on the failure or on the success. Nelson Mandela says, either I win or I learn. So it's automatically spinning the failure. And if I can go back to the entrepreneurial experience of my father, he only had the courage to start his own business because he had lost his job. And it was, instead of getting stuck, what do I do with this? Okay, now is the moment that I will start something new. He wouldn't have had the freedom to be as innovative, to start to finally do his dream of having his own business, had he not lost. So realize that the failures are sometimes windows of opportunity to something new, and try to spin in that way. And the same thing, don't get too attached on the success either, because that can also, I think, constantly asking the questions, not looking just for the answers, can help a lot in this. And as very much as Ingeborg said, not just when you're looking to start your new company, continuously ask other friends, people of expertise. Getting smart people around you and asking their opinion is probably one of the best things you can do just in general in life. And then once you've talked to them, talk to that all-wise person, which is your inner conscience, and you have to sit some time with that too, to really see what do I really think. Sometimes takes some time to sit with.
So we have to be careful with success, but that's still something we want to reach when we develop a project. Before, Didier, you were talking about differentiation and the management. When you build a team, because that's something you've been doing many times in your experience, what are the key points you would give in order to success, or to innovate if there is a change in the team that has to be done or not? What do you look at this point?
Some common things, but I think that the first rule is not to ask to somebody something he is not able to deliver. This is the first mismanagement that we are living in our entreprise every day. Because you have a good contact, because you have a good relation, because you have a good authority on somebody, you think you can ask him, her, anything. That's wrong. That's wrong. As a manager, you have to be the one who knows exactly who is able to deliver what. In that way, you will, first of all, trust the people, because you know they are able. Then you will help them to be better, because you will support them, you will be with them, so you will bring them better than they thought they only could be. And then you are not losing time. And you are not losing time in not achieved, something is not achieved, so why? So I will take that and give this project to somebody else, and you start again. You are losing time. And you are spending time in explaining it was not good, it was not what I was expecting. So you are losing a lot of time with that. So first rule is listen, choose. You have to know exactly who is able to do what. Then communication. Communication is absolutely a key point today. Because the communication is one of the major activity in our life today. On 12 hours working a day, you are spending a lot of time in communication, because communication helps you to learn, to explain, to teach, to a lot of things. But the small communication is very important. Small communication, I love in a cellar, for example. I said every Monday there is a café barrique on a oak barrel. Just everybody take the coffee together. This is very small talk, small communication. How was the weekend? Da, da, da. But the manager in that situation, he knows exactly who is in which mood. How is my week going to be? He had a very nice weekend. She was not happy. Something failed there, etc., etc. So this small communication, very important. Do not think that I was clear. I told you that two years ago. So where are you today? No, it's not. It's not the way to manage people. And managing people. So don't mismanage by asking wrong things to the people. Communication and always. We should always try to hire people that are going to contribute to the project, and not to take something from the project to their self-contribution. So this is very sensitive, I will say, very touchy, because you can hire someone because the brain is correct, the lights are on, he knows exactly what he has to do, and he's top level. Great. At the end, these people did that or was working with you because he wanted to start something else. So he's not here for contribution or contributing to the project, but he will use the project for his self-contribution. And this is something, it's not forbidden, just to be aware. Just be aware of that. And try to know. The better you know the people you are working with, the less time you are losing.
And that's when the values are very important. Also,
Yeah.
when you recruit someone, also make sure that his or her why fits to the company. But you were talking also about communication, and I'd like to know at Geneus, but also in your organization, how was communication affected by the current situation related with the COVID, because it's something very important in the management, but today it has been terribly affected. So how can we adapt to that situation?
So I think I was really proud of Fonzit at the time, because they immediately, like seamlessly went into this new mode of working, really leading under pressure and over communicating with us initially. We had meetings all the time. I was like, what's happening? But so we were all the time on Zoom, all the time knowing what was happening, and that kept it really smooth. Everybody was up to date, everybody was motivated, we still felt we were completely involved, and that was, I thought, was really, really good leadership. Then we, as Genius, as I just mentioned, we have a community to manage of hundreds of people that normally see each other on a regular basis. And these little moments of magic at the Café Croissant, and as you just mentioned, these weren't happening anymore. And actually, it's my teammate who just recently joined suggested that we'd introduce a coffee break. And since we work in innovation, we're allowed to, try new stuff. And it's been wonderful. We just log in at 11 a.m. And today I heard from one of the people that joined, maybe we should 10 a.m. because it's better in the schedule. But still, and we just chat 15 minutes like as we would at the coffee machine. It's lovely. And you feel so refreshed afterwards. And you feel you really know the people you work with much better. I feel really connected. And these little things. But you have to make an effort, and you need to impose these moments on you. And it seems a little bit tedious, but I find it very helpful. I don't know how about what you did, or.
Yeah, I think in all the companies, if you want the people feeling they are part of the project, the manager has to keep them in the project. How do you keep them in the project? Communication is the first rule. You keep them alive in the project, and in this COVID period, it's very complicated, I will say. And we discover that we can have 4 hours visio conference a day. We are dead tired, and why? Why? Because in the normal communication, I can spend 2 seconds on thinking, oh, should not forget to bring the milk at home back. In the visio, you have no time to think to something else, because if you lose something, you cannot refine what you lose by looking somebody and feeling the body language and I missed something, or no, you focus, very concentrated. This is very difficult. So if you can organize that kind of informal communication, just say hello on the screen and share 10 minutes together. How was the weekend? Who is going to make that today, etc. This is a basis for the group. You are nothing alone. You are nothing. The group is when you are manager. Your group is your personality.
I would just add, I agree. We needed to find new ways of connecting. We also tried the coffee breaks. We actually created a moment every Thursday morning to come together and also just someone share something a little more personal, a little an input, an inspirational 2-3 minutes reflection, and then everyone sit with it for a few moments of silence, because if we're just running all day, just a little pause would be useful. And then after that moment of silence, when people can sort of reflect on digest what they just heard, we would share a little bit, and it would moment people to share a little bit more personal things, because I think you come to the organization with your whole being. I'm not a different person at work. I do things at work that I don't do at home, but I'm still the same person. I can't split myself. And it's good to keep distance on certain things, of course, but I'm still the same human being. Now working at home, which many people have been doing now during Corona, there's distance of what is home, and everything's in front of the computer. My time with my family, I've been to weddings online. I mean, I do everything online. Work is online. So creating spaces, and there was no time on the tram to leave, to digest the day's work and get home and so on. So we really tried to create moments of this space. We tried to encourage people to turn off their computers. Doesn't always work. But what I would say there, another common thread that we've been saying before, constantly keep listening and learning, because we also felt, okay, more meetings were necessary and keep more communication. But at a certain point now, I think people are zoomed out. People are becoming zombies. I've heard this other phrase. Sometimes we realize, okay, 3-4 hours is too much. We need shorter. And there we're learning as well how much time can we be in front of the computer, how much time is healthy for us to be in Zoom meetings. I think many people will also come to the point of saying, I can't handle this, there's too much of this. So I think there's constantly learning. Technology has been great, but we have to be careful that we can also be too overly connected at times as well.
And talking about engaging also young people, because it's also the topic of the day is also how to become the entrepreneur of tomorrow. Is it difficult to engage some people in a non-profit organization? And is it even more difficult now with the COVID?
Well, so our conferences, which were usually in the summer, and we brought hundreds of people together, many young people as well, we had to do them online. And we realized that we had more people from different countries that wouldn't have come otherwise. But obviously you couldn't just do a whole day on Zoom, so you had to do shorter. And the interaction was different, and you had to find creative ways of getting. And with Zoom, you can do different sort of breakout rooms, and you can have smaller conversations. So we did have young people, but you have to engage them differently and realize that online, okay, if 30% of communication is also body language, you're missing some of that. And online, let's be honest, even someone watching right now might also be responding to email and might also be tweeting and might also...
No, they're watching, they're paying attention,
They're paying
100%.
attention to everything we're saying. But we're in a world today where, unfortunately, we've probably never communicated so much and so poorly. So we have to be aware that we write emails all the time, and sometimes they're just so quick and poor, and how many times we misunderstand. So young people are better with this new form of communicating, but also we can be very dispersed with all these different social medias as well. So we do have that interaction, but I think all of us and every generation is still looking for a meaningful interaction, and that is something that you have to guarantee for young people and for older people, not so young, I guess, as well.
And before Ingeborg was mentioning what Fongit and Genius have put in place in order for all the network to embed the communication. Didier, was that something you had when you were an entrepreneur, when you started being an entrepreneur, a support network for all of those projects, and how did you see it evolving?
I think that I will say I heard Peter Bradbeck, former CEO of Nestlé, who said I am against teletravail, because teletravail, I spent all my life to trying to get the people together on the project. Okay, but teletravail is something we need today. And if we want to take more care about the environment, I will not fly just to get one meeting and come back in the evening, but maybe it's easier to get a video conference. So everything is changing. I think that depends the range of activity. If I am in the production, food production, for example, how can I organize communication? We have to produce so much tons a day, and to pack that and to deliver that, and so the communication is very easy. And once the job is done, everybody's relaxed. That's why the production world is starting very early in the morning, Because if you have a problem with an engine, a production problem, you have the afternoon to finish your day job. So the communication in, in the services activity, much more easier. It's something normal because you are spending all your time in communication, so people are more open with that. Now, the most interesting is the communication in the sports business, because we know companies, entreprises, and we know standard companies. Sport is something else. But it's like in the entertainment industry, which is an artist. You're working with artists, musician or dancer or football player, ice hockey player, rugby player, and the communication this is another world. They are only on the emotion. They want to hear not really what you think about them, but how much you trust them. An artist needs to be just in the comfort. If it's not reality, he doesn't matter with that. He needs to be confident, self-confident, and an artist is the one who is the less self-confident in his nature, deep nature. So he needs to build his self-confidence with the others. So this is completely different. You cannot compare. This was the most interesting, innovating way of communication I had to learn after a life in companies, in traditional companies, to enter in that world and to learn this communication. You have to love them. In your company, you can say, "Come on, guys, this is the sales meeting. We have 12%. We are back in the budget for the sales. Please, sales manager, what are you doing? How can we reach the next trimester with some plus 10% on the budget because you lose 15% there, etc., etc." So you are bam, bam, bam. When we lose a match, the players, they go back in the cabin, and the only talk you have to get with them is, "No problem, guys. The next match we're going to win, because I know you are able to win. I know your talent. I know your efforts. I know everything. We're a very good team." If you say, "Hey, what did you do at that minute there? You had to score, and what happened?" If you say that at the end of the match, you're destroying him. So this is another world. You have to love them always. Communication is something very complicated, finally, because you have to know with whom you're communicating.
Thank you. I maybe have just a last question for you. Then I just want you to think also of how would be your last message, and what the entrepreneur of tomorrow, what are you expecting from them? But before that, is the entrepreneur of tomorrow more willing to adapt to all the situations, and is it a characteristic that is important?
Yeah, I have two sides of the answer for you. So, it was a little bit touched upon this subject before, where we said, where you actually said, you need to go around the world and try and feel and understand it before you can actually start implementing change. And we're very fortunate to work with the University of Geneva. There's a wonderful master's program in innovation and human development and sustainability. And they accept students from all over the world. It's a master's program. And yesterday I was actually on the jury for one of their, they're doing this Open 17 program. 60 students from all over the world, and literally as young as 16 years old, with projects to tackle, water shortage in certain regions and solving big problems in other, really wanting the world to be a better place. And I always think, what was I doing when I was 16, But I think with the current, communication tools and everything that's available to young people, they have a much more awareness of what's going on in the world, and not just awareness. From a very young age, they have this. At least the kids, the young people, that we work with, they have such a willingness to drive positive change. They're not there because they have to for their master's program. These projects are done in their free time, and they call in from Africa, they call in from Mexico, from China, from all over the world. These 2 hours, some at night, some in the morning, just to work together on their project to try to make a positive difference in the world. And I think hopefully I'm not drifting too far away from your question, but I think that the entrepreneur of tomorrow and what I see with the young people, also even the young entrepreneurs in science and tech that we see, they are much more aware of what's around them. Their ability to absorb trends, markets, to see outside the box, that is much more developed than how we were at that age, I think. And I think therefore the quality of the future project and the quantity of them will increase. So, what was your question again?
What do you expect from the entrepreneur of tomorrow?
So I expect the entrepreneur of tomorrow to keep in touch with the surroundings and to keep that ability to interact with the world, but always it's about what you said before. You need to understand what value you are creating, so you need to keep that interaction and always question and make sure that you design whatever you're building so that it really fulfills that need, and for that you need to really interact and listen. So I expect awareness and ability to do something with the information that you receive.
And what about you, Didier?
I will say that an entrepreneur or a change maker, as I said, for me it's equal. It's not only Steve Jobs starting in a small garage and making something fantastic. Entrepreneur is a mindset. You can be entrepreneur in your mind, working for the public of state. I don't know what. So you can be entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is something who wants to bring value to the community. Is this a deal? Is this not a deal? Is this profitable or not profitable? Doesn't matter. The mindset is, if you want to bring and to contribute to the community, please do it. Anywhere, in your small garage, and starting your small startup alone with friends and family, or in a company, or in a foundation. Everywhere you can be the entrepreneur that brings something. But try to, when you go to bed, try to just give a look in the back and say, how did I contribute today? This is a good question that you have to get in your mind every time.
What would be your final word right now?
Well, my final word, I think, is that with all the complex challenges that the world is facing today, we all need to be more entrepreneurial. We need to all be creating more value. We all need to ask ourselves when we've gone to bed at the end of the day, what value did I bring, or what value did I uncover? A lot of times there is a lot of value that's already there, as Didier also said, that people just haven't placed in value. And I think to do that, it's good to not only say, okay, what do I see? But often ask yourself, well, what am I missing? What else? Like Nespresso always asks, what else? What else is out there? What else did I not see? Because we can be sometimes so convinced we're right, but we also don't realize that we also have our own tunnel vision sometimes. And there, I would say it's good to pause, take moments to talk with experts around, have a moment to sit with yourself. And there, the talking with others, I think, is key, because truth is not relative, but I will say it is relational. I can see the whole part of this room, this very nice studio, but I still don't see from your perspective. or from Ingeborg's perspective, or from Didier's perspective. And only in the relation can I see all of it. And for some of the solutions that we want to find, yes, we need to be strong entrepreneurs on our own, but it's only in the relation with others that we can find the solution to these complex problems. And that will have to be a collective solution. So good luck with that, everyone. Nothing less than solving all the world's problems.
So if I can sum up is being ready, take all of your advices, but mostly try to have a positive impact in the world. I think that would be the key message. Follow your values and try to add also a value to society in everything you do. Before I close the conference, I really want to thank you, Ingeborg, thank you, Didier, and thank you, Rainer, for being present here today. For us, it has been a very huge event. We've been putting a lot of efforts to organize all of those sessions, 18 sessions in 3 days. So thank you very much for the last session of eSpace 2020. And for you, the audience, thank you again for having been with us. See you soon. I would have liked to tell you that there is another session, but it's the last one. Hopefully we're going to be back soon. See you soon, and let's keep in touch.